Hi everyone, this is Ashwini from CKA Cert Hands-On channel. The purpose of my channel is to get people who want to give CKA 2025 exam get started on their hands-on practicing journey once they finish the formal course of CKA and have a basic understanding of Kubernetes concepts. This creates the depth in your understanding of each concept and helps you crack CKA exam. CKA exam consists of questions from 5 different categories. As you can see here, we are currently dealing with troubleshooting, which carries 30% of the weightage of the CKA questions. I have a playlist for each category of CKA exam. Please do check out my playlist for networking and storage categories that carry 20% and 10% weightage. The links for the playlist are provided in every video. With that introduction, let's get started with today's video. This is the 17th video in troubleshooting series. Let's set the context. It says the deployment, Postgres deployment pods are not running, fix that issue. So as with everything else, we try to get the deployment and then later describe it. I'm just describing it directly. You can see that it's scaled up from 0 to 1. 1 is desired, 1 is updated, but 0 is available, 1 is unavailable. If you get deployments, you can see that it is 0, isn't ready, available is 0 as well. So when a deployment created, usually it is pods are associated with the deployment are also created. So the next step is describe the pod to get events related to the errors contributing to the pod not getting created successfully. If you can see here, there should be something, a warning failed, error config map postgres db config not found. Okay, so before we jump into it, let's try to understand config maps. So a config map is an API object used to store non-confidential data in key value pairs. Pods can consume config maps as environment variables, command line arguments, or as configuration files in a volume. So if we can, let's try to describe, get the deployment, postgres deployment. And go through the pod specification once to see what they mean here and how it is used. So my way of troubleshooting is before jumping into solving it, if you do not know what the concept is about, so the concept here we're dealing with is config maps, right, and deployment. So but the issue is with the config map. So if you do not know what a config map is, if you do not know how a deployment or pod works with the config map, it is definitely important to go back to the documentation and understand that before you start solving a problem, because it's an opportunity to learn. And so I have revised it today as well. So if you can see that what it is saying is how you can use config maps. You can use them as environment variables, and if you can see here, it's got a name and then a value from, so it's the name of the environment variable. The postgres db is the name of an environment variable in the container, and the value of it is coming from the config map called name postgres db config. And within the config map you will have keys and values. So if you go back here, it says it stores non-confidential data in key value pairs. So now it will be clear if we can describe. We'll get the config map because the provided config map name is wrong, as it says it's not found. So you can see that it is referencing the name of the config map as Postgres DB config in the port specification, but the name of the config map is Postgres config. So if you describe config map Postgres config, you can see that it's got a data and also it's got a binary data. So depending on your requirement, you can either store data or binary data in a config map. It is a key value store. It has got two keys, Postgres DB and Postgres user. The value of Postgres DB is my database. The value of Postgres user is my user. Now there's one more thing I want to show you in a config map, that is the manifest of which is slightly different from other Kubernetes objects, which is the data or the binary data. So if you see here, all of your pod, your deployments, everything has got an API version, a kind, and a metadata. But you'll also have a spec where you will define your container definitions and everything. But in a config map, you will have something. You won't have spec section. You will have a data section, and within the data, you will have your key value pairs. And this is not encrypted, so you can see the value of the key inside whenever you describe it or inside your manifest files. So now we know what the problem is. We understand a little bit about config map, and let's go and we have already saved the deployment manifest here. So now I will go and update the name of the config map, which is referenced currently in the specification is Postgres DB config, but the actual name is Postgres. I think it's Postgres config. I think I've selected the wrong one. Okay, same here. I'll delete the deployment and recreate it using the manifest that we have updated. And if there should be some new pod that's creating, which is still looks like it has some issues, so we will describe the pod again to see what the issue is now. Okay, now it's gone, everything. Okay, we've got a different error now. It says secret Postgres DB secret not found, so it's also using a secret. Okay, so let's do the secrets. You can see that it's referencing it as Postgres DB secret, and okay, we'll describe this secret because I want to show you something. So you can see here your config maps and secrets both are quite similar. The only difference is the secret is used for storing confidential data, whereas a config map is used for storing non-confidential data in key value pairs. Here again, within the data section, you have a key and value. The only thing is, in a secret, you will not be able to see the value because it is encrypted, and because it's a password, you don't want to use a regular string, right? That you want to show to people. That's fine. It has to be encrypted, and but the name of the secret is wrong. It's Postgres secret. So this is a good example here, a well-rounded example of how you can use a deployment to create pods, how you can create pods as part of a deployment, and then how you can, this is a Postgres database deployment, right? And within that container specification, you will have some configuration related to the database, username and password, which you can separate it into config map for the non-confidential data like database and username, and in a secret for the password. So this is the application of deployments, Configmaps, and secret. Okay, we will delete the deployment again. Recreate it. If we do get pods, we shouldn't, yeah, it's running now, and we will describe it. Describe the pod. Yeah, so it's successfully pulled the image, created and started container. These are the events that we want to see in a nice and running in a container that's nice and running. And then the next thing is the deployment, so which is also ready and available. And let's check the solution. Validation is successful. That's how you troubleshoot deployments with Configmaps and secrets. Now, if you think my videos are helpful, please do subscribe to my channel and also like and share my videos. I will be sharing the link to KillerCoda Playground, the specific scenario, and also the relevant documentation in my video description. I will also be sharing the playlist for troubleshooting, networking, and storage in each video of mine. Please do reference these playlists, which are curated to target that particular category, and keep practicing. I will see you in the next video. If you have any comments or feedback, please comment and let me know. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.